Okay, let's go.
Okay, thank you. Good to see you also. Thank you, Katie. Good morning.
If your microphone is not working, shut the computer and then restart, and it might do it. I have that all the time for whoever's microphone is not working.
Okay, that's okay. You don't need
You don't need it. as long as Rochel's microphone's working, we're good.
Yeah, that's right. But that's a good trick. Thank you, Miriam. Hi, Adelia. It's good. I'm sending you a big hug. It's one of my kids. Hi, Sarla. Hi, Andrea. Good morning, Pauline. Good morning, Joanne. Good morning, Katie and Ginny. Good morning. Let's see who else is here. Acheli. And good morning, Joanne's mom. And whose feet are those? I see somebody's feet. I can't see. Judy? Yeah, Judy. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Haley. Good morning, Esther. And good morning, Sippy. And good morning, I forgot who's in the office today. And good morning, Mrs. Zoninger. And good morning, Golda. And Shira. Shira, was that you this morning that texted me? Is that Shira? And who else is here? Zahava, of course, good morning. And Janice and Chava and Didi, good morning. And all the people who are on the phone. And Esther and Esty and Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is going to be a fun class the next 2 weeks. I know it's maybe hard to think about fun. Hi, Annie. Good to see you. Devar, we missed you this week. I see all my girls, all the ladies. Not that I'm keeping tabs and taking attendance, but we missed Devar this week. Okay. In both classes, I think we missed you. Yeah? Laura, you gotta let me know you're okay. Okay, so we're gonna do 2 weeks of a unit called Colors in the Torah. Colors in the Torah. And see where that takes us. Forgive me if there's noise in the background. I tried to close all the doors, but there's a gigantic construction next door to my building, and they brought this huge truck that's like 10 stories high, and it's pouring cement and doing all kinds of things. So I hope that the side noise doesn't bother you. Okay. To everybody who just joined, Farit, I'm glad you got on. Sorry I didn't send the clarification a little bit earlier that it was Israel time, UK time, colors. So before we begin to talk about the colors, we want to know, are the colors significant? Is it a significant thing to talk about? Is it something to talk about? Is it something important? You know that nowadays, when we talk about colors, we don't just talk about reds, greens, blues. The word color nowadays represents the idea of different opinions, right? Everybody's colored eyeglasses, rose-colored glasses, different colors of people doesn't mean red, black, blue, white, etc. It means different types. So the word color nowadays in the vernacular of the 21st century has a very different connotation, and it means representing everybody. I once said this, and one of the ladies afterwards texted me and said, do you know what rainbow is? And I said, yeah, rainbow is beautiful. I didn't know what the rainbow represents in the world of whatever. So, but a rainbow has many colors. Why did Hashem make a rainbow with so many colors? And why did Hashem make color bichlal? So color in general is connected to the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. Let me just explain to you why. Tu B'Shvat is the holiday of trees and of fruit. And we say every year Tu B'Shvat that all the food that Hashem makes in the world didn't have to have beautiful colors to it. For example, think about the majority of food that people eat. I'm not talking about when you add in color, but meat is bland, bread colors is bland, vegetables are basically bland except for the orange family What else do people eat? Dairy products are bland. Bland, when I mean bland, is I mean that they're monochromatic. They're whites, grays, browns, that world. And then Hashem made fruits. Now fruits, today's now, we already started having watermelons. I saw this week the watermelons came out. We're already in the summer fruit season. You know that in Chutz La'aretz, I don't know how it is in the UK, but I know in America, even when I lived in America 20-something years ago, you could get strawberries all the time, you could get grapes all the time, because they import. But here in Israel, we really don't do that. We eat seasonally. And so now the summer fruits are coming out. And you have the melons, bright green, bright orange, thick skinned. You have grapes, red and green. You have watermelon, that bright red. You have peaches and plums and etc. So fruit is God's way, and fruit is generally dessert. Before we made up this crazy idea of having cake and, puddings and, ice cream for dessert, what was dessert always in the world, not just by the Jewish world, but everybody, dessert was always fruit, whether it was fresh fruit or cooked fruit. So Hashem, when Hashem created fruit, basically what he was saying is, I could have made the world bland and monochromatic, but I'm making the world with color so that you should enjoy. Very simple, you should enjoy. So color is connected to pleasure. For those of you who did the 4 elements with me, you know that the color, the water element is the element that loves beauty and that loves that enjoys life, and we know that most fruit is 95% water and then 10% natural sugar. So colors are significant in that it's God's message to us, and it's God's message to us saying, there's a beautiful world that I created, and you're allowed to enjoy it. If Hashem didn't say that, if the world was not created with color, and all the kind of food that we ate was like the astronaut food, like a toothpaste you squeeze into your mouth, then Hashem's message would be, you don't need to enjoy the world. But the fact that Hashem colored the world, one of the messages is, there's such a thing called kosher pleasure, and I want you to enjoy the world. Hashem made people with different colors. Primarily, this appears in our eyes. The primary difference in colors of people isn't so much in their skin, but really in their eyes. And what do we have in eyes? We have brown. Very few people have really black eyes. There's really almost no such thing. It's really a dark brown. And we have green, and we have blue, and then we have David HaMelech's eyes, which were a mixture of all colors. How that worked, I can't wait to see him and see what his eyes look like. But that's basically where the colors where the colors are in our bodies as color. When we say a person's white or a person's black or a person's brown in terms of their skin, that's not a real white isn't a color, isn't such a color, brown isn't a color, black isn't such a color, and red isn't such, red, nobody has really red skin. As you know, the para aduma, the red heifer, the para aduma isn't really red. It's brown. It's like an auburn brown. Really red hair is not even red, it's orange, even though we use those words. Okay, this is all introduction to telling you and to try to put things into the perspective of color is significant. Color is significant. Now let me explain to you, let's learn together one of the primary Dvar Torahs in Chumash about color. And you all know this. I don't know if in the UK you have so many men wearing tzitzis that have the blue string. Here in Eretz Israel, we do. We have a lot of boys and men who wear tchelet. Tchelet, the Torah tells us in Chumash, in the parsha that we say every single day in tzitzis, right? Right? You have to make hakanaf patil on the kanaf on the corner. You have to make a patil. A patil is a string of tchelet. So why are the men having to wear that tchelet? And you should know that tchelet isn't an easy thing to do. It's not like, and because it's not such an easy thing to do, that's why not all men wear tchelet, because they're not quite sure if the tchelet that we have now, I think, who was it? Which Rebbe was it? The Rishner and not the Rishner. Who was it? Which Chassidus has it? Not Solon, not Salonim, I forgot which. Radzin, the Radziner. The Radziner Rebbe was the one who gave the hechsher to tchelet as we have it now. They was researching it that way. He made that his mitzvah to research, and they found this snail called a mollusk, I think it's called, and they found it off the coast of Italy, which is close enough to Israel to make that relevant. And they harvested it, and they figured out how to take out the color from the, I don't know what part of the snail they take it out, and they dye it. So yeah, we have everybody in mind. I have actually a couple in mind. Everybody have everybody in mind. Our shiurim, we're sharing this chus with all the Jewish people in the entire world. And in particular, I'm thinking about a certain couple that's going through certain fertility treatments now. I hope that I'm davening for them strongly. And of course, the people who are, I can give a whole shiur on what happened in Meron. I don't think you want me to do that. I did already, so you can check the past, the links that I sent out. I was there, oh Hashem. And one of our precious members of this year, Zahava, is a trauma counselor for Chai Lifeline, I think, but I forgot which one. Sorry, forgive me if that was the wrong one. And she's been working on stop. Or which is it, Zahava?
Yeah, I'm one of the, Baruch Hashem. Hashem has put me in a unique position, but I'm one of the directors of the Chai Lifeline's Crisis Intervention Trauma and Bereavement Department for Chai Lifeline.
Anybody needs trauma intervention, you shouldn't have to, but if you need it, we have one of our chevra who's one of the heads of that. So a woman so if you need it, you reach out to me and I'll get you we'll connect. So, okay, so you don't want to talk about that. We could talk about it, having everybody in mind, the people who are still sick, people who are sitting Shiva. Remarkably, the people who are sitting Shiva are giving chizuk to the entire world. One of my students lost her son. They're down the block. And they're remarkable. Okay, anyway, by the way, if you want to hear okay, I won't say that. Okay, so the Torah tells us, why does Hashem want the men to put one string of tcheles on their tzitzis? Rashi says there, go look, you'll see. Because that color of tcheles reminds us of the ocean. And the ocean, the color of the sea. And the sea reminds us of the color of Shemayim. And Shemayim, heaven, right? When you look up the sky, and the sky reminds us of the color of the Kisei HaKavod. Because when the Torah tells us that they saw, like when the Shemayim opened up and they saw, so to speak, the Kisei HaKavod, it was that color of tcheles, like a light blue, sapphire blue. It's hard to know that. Not the color of my mitpacha. I knew all of you are going to look at my mitpacha today. That's why I put this one on, because I know you're looking to see what color am I going to wear today. Yes, and I dress like that. I know it might sound like weird, but whatever. We oftentimes find that people dress according to the energy of the world. Sometimes I'll walk into a classroom and I'll see everybody's wearing pink in different shades. It's interesting, and I pointed out to them. I said, "Did you guys coordinate?" And no, they just all felt that today was a pink day, and they all in their dorm rooms or wherever they were got dressed with that. And I find that a lot. A lot of times when I teach, sometimes I get bored of listening to myself, so I just like look around at the audience and I see what people are doing and seeing and thinking and wearing, and it's interesting to me that I've noticed that phenomenon. Okay, so colors are significant. Now, I don't like to bring in necessarily into a shiur only science. But you know that there's a science called color therapy, or a pseudoscience called color therapy. I studied this many, many years ago, color therapy. And all of you, on a certain level, even if you've never studied color therapy, women sometimes have a chush. We sometimes have a feeling of how to paint a room, or how to dress up a table, etc. Some people are are more sensitive to color than others. Some people who themselves cannot dress more colorful will decorate their home with strong colors because they want that in their environment. So you all know that there's many different ways of analyzing the rainbow. And what's a rainbow? A rainbow is a ray of light that appears to be white. The way of light that appears to be white. We'll talk about vibration. If I don't talk about it, then you'll remind me later tomorrow. It appears to be like a sun ray, right? A ray comes down from the sun. It looks to be white, whitish, yellowish, right? And then you take a piece of glass and you shine it a certain way, and all of a sudden that ray of light bursts into 7 colors, the colors of the rainbow. Why did Hashem do that? He didn't have to do that. Whatever we see in the world, we have to say to Hashem, why'd you do that? And what am I supposed to learn from that? Because there's nothing that we can't learn from. Everything is something that, everything could be a lesson, a Torah lesson. So many people will analyze the colors of the rainbow and they will attribute it to the different parts of the body, from the head down. That's one way of looking at that. That's not the Torah way, but that's one way in the world of science. Then in behavioral psychology, some of you perhaps took classes in behavioral psychology, as opposed to analytical psychology. Analysis means, let's talk about your past, let's talk about your childhood. Behavioral is, let's just change behavior. Changing behavior can oftentimes, most times, change feelings. So in behavioral psychology, if you've ever taken a course, they will give you a class in colors and tell you about how colors can be measured to affect the mood. And they do with brainwaves. It's really interesting. It's not like some, they say, okay, how do you feel? You see red, how do you feel? Right? You see whatever. No, they put these headsets all over you and they measure your brainwaves while you're exposed. Somebody has to be muted. While you're actually exposed in a saturated way to certain colors, like the reds and that whole world, and the blues, purples, that whole world, and the blacks and whites, that whole world. And they'll measure your brainwaves and see how they can put into categories the reactions to people. I really, in one of my, maybe when I'm about 95 and I'm retiring, or I'm considering retiring at age 95, I'll try to get involved in one of those studies where they do the color coordination. And I'm very, very interested in that. Anyway, okay, but the bottom line is that we're going to be learning the colors from the Torah. I'll bring in the science, but we're going to be learning the colors from the Torah, and we're going to be learning it based on the following. Okay, first of all, we're going to be basing it on what we just said about the tchelas. Then we're going to be basing it on primarily the bigdei kehuna, the clothing of the Kohen and the Kohen Gadol. And then we're going to be basing it on, believe it or not, the affliction called sara'at. Sara'at, we don't want to call it leprosy, but that's that affliction that a person gets from not being careful with certain bein adam l'chaver mitzvot, primarily lashon hara. And we're going to be talking about the colors based on the halachas of a woman. And we have a flow, we get a period, and the different colors in that. These are all areas where the Torah describes to us color and the effect that color has, and the meaning behind the colors. Okay, so that's outline. Now let's dig in. The first color, as we said, before the bigdei kehuna, the first color is tchelas.
Can I just ask you what when building the Mishkan, there's a lot of color there? No, tchelas, argaman, like that red, zahav.
Right, that's called the bigdei kehuna.
Oh, that's included in the bigdei.
And that was repeated in the paroches, in the covering of the Aron Kodesh. So all of those we're going to be studying. Kesef is zahav, tchelas, argaman, tolad, shani, sheish masar. Those are all the colors of the Beis HaMikdash that were woven into the big day, into the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, and the stones that he wore on the Choshen. The stones that he wore. So you all know I didn't prepare for you a picture of the big day kahuna, but the Kohen Gadol wore eight items of apparel, and one of them, actually the most decorative, was on top of his multicolored apron. He wore something on his chest. It was called the Choshen, and the Choshen was a beautiful piece of jewelry, so to speak, and it had 12 stones, 12 precious stones. Each stone, of course, was for a different tribe in the Jewish people. Each stone had a name and a color, and an energy and a message. And the Kohen Gadol would wore that on his chest as a device to be able to access prophecy, because not every Kohen was a prophet. Not correct in the Megillah, right? Same in Megillah Esther, we have those. We have that from a different place. The Megillah Esther was, remember, Achashverosh was trying to imitate the holy colors, but he never got it right, Baruch Hashem. And by the way, we have the Shlomo HaMelech and the Beis HaMikdash, and there's a lot of colors in the Torah. You might not have noticed it before, but there's lots and lots of colors in the Torah. We have our uncle Esav. What was Esav? Esav was red. He was an Adon, right? He was red-skinned. And then we have the cure, or the counterpart, or the opposite of Esav was David HaMelech, who was also red face, red beard. Lots of colors in the Torah. So let's start, let's see where it takes us, okay? I'm going to be starting so first we have the tcheles. We know that therefore the color of tcheles, which again it's a form of blue. It's a form of blue that's when the sky of Israel on a clear day is tcheles. That's the only way I can describe tcheles to you, because that's what the Torah says. The Torah says that the strings should be the same color as the sky, and the sky should remind you to look up and to remember Hashem. And even though Hashem is not up there, so to speak, Hashem is everywhere. But the way that humans visualize a hierarchy, a heavenly hierarchy, is above. So the sky, why did Hashem paint the sky blue? Everybody here knows the sky is not blue. We all know the sky is not blue, and that it only looks blue because of the particles in the air. And really the sky is black. And really all of the expanse in heaven is black. There's no color. It's devoid of color. Or it has all the colors, depending on how you want to look at black. But it looks blue to us. In planet Earth, it looks blue to us. So on a clear, healthy day, the sky above Israel is tcheles colored, and that's a spiritual color. It's supposed to remind you of God. So it's spiritual. It's also yiras shamayim. It's also fear of heaven, awe of heaven, heaven conscious blue. Like a little bit of my tichel is tcheles. This is a little bit too dark. Blue is tcheles. Again, you got to come to Israel, look at the sky on a clear day. 10 a.m., that's tcheles. Okay, and that's, so now, when you wear a color and when you decorate your house with a color, looking at the color has an effect. The Torah tells us, you have to look at the tzitzis. The color of tcheles is there for you to look at. Why? Because the gazing at the tcheles and all of the tzitzis, the gazing at the white strings and the blue string and the knots and the ties, it has an effect on us. It has an effect on influencing us to remember to do the mitzvahs. So whenever you see any of your men wearing tzitzis, look at the strings, look at the knots and the strings. The knots actually more important than the strings, but if they're wearing tcheles, look at the tcheles and say, thank you, Hashem, for giving me an opportunity to do this, looking at the tcheles, and to remember you and to talk to you.
Can I ask you, so that's the men and for the tzitzis, but I learned, and I don't remember from where, forgive me, but this is something that I think about with tcheles. And in fact, for my son's bar mitzvah, I focused on the theme of tefillah, and I made the sidurim, in this nice blue color, because I learned that tcheles is the color of tefillah, because of what you said, that we look at the ocean and we think of the sky, think of Kitei Kavod.
Absolutely. Okay. So now we see that the rule that I was trying to just bring out to you, though, is looking at tcheles. The Torah says, look at it, it has an effect on you. You should know that it's forbidden, or I won't say forbidden, but it's not a good idea to look at the face of evil people. Don't look at the face of evil people. I always protest whenever a frum newspaper or a frum magazine, a Jewish magazine, whenever they put pictures of people that we don't call tzaddikim, I always get upset about that, because you're not supposed to look at the face of an evil person. Even the face of a semi-evil person. Don't look. Because if you're looking at something positive, it has an effect on you. So looking at something negative also has an effect on you. The pasuk says, let your eyes see your teachers, but not to see anyone who you don't want to be an influence on you. A moreh is someone who you want to influence. Don't let your eyes dwell on anything that can have a negative influence on you, which is a big problem for people who like to watch TV. Even if you like to watch I Love Lucy, and all the old TV shows. I don't even know if any of them, those, the apparently innocent, what's a big deal? It's a big shaila, it's a big shaila, and believe me, it's not a shaila that I'm innocent of either. I also like to watch every once in a while something. But it's a question of, okay, maybe they're not Rishon, and also because they're working. There's a whole discussion of if a person's working, so they're not, their essence of their personality is not coming out of their face, whatever. But certainly you shouldn't look at the faces of any evil people, because looking at something has a positive effect, has a negative effect.
I just say something, Rose, as well. I don't want to interrupt you, because my name's Chava. I just wanted to say that I heard, I'm not Lubavitch, but I heard that Lubavitch have they're very strong on not letting, they don't wear clothes, let's say, even their children to wear Mickey Mouse or something, that they shouldn't even be in any way.
Right, they also don't do animals, stuffed animals. The Rebbe said, don't look at anything or play with anything that's tamei, so they won't have a stuffed bear. Maybe they'll have a stuffed goat, I don't know, but yeah, Chabad is not good on that. Yeah, everybody has different, things that they're careful about. And again, the idea being, whether you're makpid on that or not, whether you're particular about that or not, the idea being what you see has an influence. So certainly the colors that you see have an influence. The colors that you dress your children in have an influence. And the colors that the Jewish world wears, black and white, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why Sephardim don't wear black and white. There's lots of reasons. There's a reason why a certain community in Israel, very holy, wonderful Jews, but the men will dafka wear a blue shirt, a tchelet shirt. They'll wear a light blue shirt. That's their color. What you see influences you. Okay, so let's learn today about the Choshen. Let's talk about the Choshen. Today we'll be talking from the Sefer called Mea Shiloach. For those of you who like to see the source, I didn't photostat it for you. If you want, I could send it to you. The Mea Shiloach, Volume 1. Volume 1. Now, I have a very, very, very old copy. It's still in Rashi print, so it's on page Peites. Parshas Tetzaveh. It's the fourth teaching in Parshas Tetzaveh, for those of you who want to see this inside. And I'm going to go through the 12 colors of the Choshen.
I have a little picture, if you can see it. I'm not sure if you can.
You have what in the picture?
The Choshen, yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to look at the pictures of the Choshen. I'll tell you why. I'm going to be using Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan's choices of colors. I'll explain to you that there's only two colors, and there's only a few colors in the Choshen that everyone agrees what the color is, because the names of the stones are not names that we're currently using. You'll see when we learn. So not all of the colors of like when you buy a Choshen necklace or whatever, or you get a painting or you get one of those, the stones that they choose, there's a big machlokes. There's an argument in the Rishonim and Achronim for what those stones are. Like, what are the current stones? For example, nowadays when we call a stone a certain English name is the same as how do we define that? So if any of you have Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan Chumash, what was this Chumash called? The purple and the green. I forgot what it was called. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, it's just in English. So he has pages and pages of this, and he brings down every single, he was an amazing researcher. He brings down every single opinion about what these colors could be. So we're not going to look at the pictures, the living Torah, thank you. We're not going to look at the pictures. We're just going to read the Sefer here. We'll play with all the different colors, because as everything, the word color in Hebrew means in Hebrew you could say the word seva, sadik, bet, ayin. That's like the more modern way of saying color in Hebrew. Sadik, bet, ayin, seva. Not sava like an army. It's connected, but seva. But in Aramaic, the word used for color is gavan, gimel, vav, nun, gavan. And that doesn't just mean the color, it means like all the different possible shades of a color, all the different choices of a color. So gavanim in Hebrew really means all the possibilities of colors, like a rainbow or a palette of colors. And so we'll see how Rabbi Kaplan describes this. So I made a combination of Rav Kaplan and the Meshloch. So in my old version, it's page Peitet in the Sefer that I have. But I have a copy that I'm sure there are much more modern versions of this Sefer. Okay. So in the Choshen, the first color in the Choshen is the easiest one to discuss, and it's called an Odem. In the Chumash, look in Parshas Tetzaveh. In Parshas Tetzaveh, in the book of Shmos, Parshas Tetzaveh, it gives a list of all of the stones in the Choshen, and it doesn't tell us anything other than their names. And Chazal, well, we have to have them just like we have everything. How do we know what tchelet even looks like? Well, we know because of the mashal, but we don't know without Torah Sheba'al Peh, without the oral Torah, we have no idea how to interpret the Torah in the Chumash. So the first is the easiest. Odem. Aleph, Vav, Dalet, Mem, Odem. If you want to say it in Hebrew, in English, you want to write it in English, it would be O-D-E-M, O-D-E-M, Odem. And that's a ruby. That's the easiest one because it's Adom, it's red. And now you're going to tell me that indeed there are other color rubies. It's true. I found this out, that ruby is not just red. If anyone here is a gemologist, then you can help us out here a lot. Odelia, did you ever take gemology school? I don't know. I lost you on my screen, but okay, forget it. Okay, and Odem. Now, Chazal said that Torah.
It took me a while. I never did, no.
Okay, we got to get some of your chevra who went to GIA to help us out here. Okay, Odem, I'm reading. Odem hu keneged shevesh Reuven. Now, this is connected to names also. So we have a lot to learn. Baruch Hashem, we have till eternity to learn together. So there's a lot. So here he's telling us, the Ishbitz Rebbe is telling us that the stone and the color and the tribe and the nature of the tribe are all one unit. Now that will also extend to the birth month. The birth month of Reuven is, you can see him, Tammuz. Tammuz Avel, yeah, Tammuz. Yeah, Tammuz. Tammuz is Reuven, so that's the birth month. Tammuz is like how do you say Tammuz in English? July-ish. Let me see. Yeah, July-ish, which means
Cancer. Cancer?
Yeah, Cancer sign. April 20, July. So that means June
It's
23rd
Leo as well.
until July 22nd, 23rd. That's the Cancer sign. Yeah. All one. So now you're going to see that the non-Jewish world and their birthstones don't have it right. Some of them do, and some of them, but most of them don't. Okay. Odem, the red, color red. Who can which is associated with the name Reuven. Ki adom hu gavan simcha. So red is the color of simcha. You might not have known that. Red is the color of simcha. Now, what does that mean, the color of simcha? You might say, really? So first of all, we're going to say that simcha, happiness, simcha means happiness. Simcha, happiness, there's different kinds of happiness. He's going to explain in a second what type of happiness it is, but I will extend it to the word energy, energetic, fast moving, Reuven. And why is Reuven the color red? And why is red simcha? He explains very simply. Remember when Leah Imenu, when she gave birth to Reuven, and she named him Reuven, right? She said, Re'eh, see my son. And what does she mean by see my son? Because Lir'ot, Reuven is to the power of sight, the power of seeing. Red affects your sight. All of this is so interconnected. That's why they put a red thing in front of a bull, that it should see it. So what is Reuven? Reuven, and what is Reuven seeing that makes it happy and that is associated with the color red? What does Reuven see? Listen to what he says. Al Shem Re'iyah, ki b'chol inyanav udvarav ro'eh tamid nechacho et Hashem. The color red, the name Reuven, the month of Tammuz, the idea of seeing, the idea of energy and happiness is all, according to Idris Rebbe, is all because you see Hashem in every aspect of your life. That's what the color red means. Seeing Hashem in every aspect of your life makes you happy, makes you energetic, makes you able to overcome negativity, makes you able to see clearly between good and evil. Because remember what Leah Imenu said? Our Babi Leah, what did she say? She said, look at the difference between my Bechor, Reuven, who was a tzaddik, and my father-in-law's Bechor, because his Bechor was Esav, right? Her father, Yitzchak and Rivka, their Bechor was Esav. So she was trying to make a comparison, a positive comparison, to try to elevate and give happiness to Yaakov Avinu. So she said to him, look, your father's Bechor is Esav. Our Bechor is a big tzaddik. I'll tell Rochel, I'll ask you, that's a good question. Everybody asks a question, I'm going to say it in a second. So now, so the color red and all of its givanim. Givanim, remember, means shades and the palette of red. That's all about seeing God in your life. Reuven is connected to Reuven. It's seeing God in your life. Re'u, lir'ot, to see. Yirat shamayim, yirat shamayim. We use the word yirah, which means to fear, is connected to the word ro'et, to see. Because when you're very cognizant of God, then you're in awe of God. And then your actions are absolutely in line with godliness. Now, so the Hashem Yisrael, I'm going to just continue. The Hashem Yisrael me'ir einav u'mizeh ba godel hasimcha la'adam. And then when you keep looking to search for God in your life, to search for the divine providence in your life, the hashgacha pratis, when you keep searching for that, then Hashem enlightens your eyes. He gives you good sight. He gives you the ability to see. And once you see clearly, then you're happy. And we know the teaching that when Mashiach comes, we're going to see the reason that everything happened to us in all of our lives, and it will make us happy. It will make us that will be our nechama, to see the reasons why everything happened to us. So that's the color red. So now you're going to say, but people have heard through the grapevine that for a woman to wear red is a little bit of a question. The Gemara talks about this. The Gemara says a woman shouldn't wear red. Now, first of all, the Gemara is talking about bright red, number one. Number two, the Gemara is talking about in the times of the Gemara, they didn't have colorful clothing like we have today. And so red stood out, and standing out isn't what a woman wants to do. Even though in the modern world, people like, there's such a thing as you walk into the room, I forgot the expression already. You want all eyes to, like you walk in, you want everybody to look at you. I forgot there's an expression about that. That's not what we want. We don't want to walk in and everybody should turn to us and say, whoa, look at that, or look at her. Well, we don't like that. But that's what red represents. It's about calling attention to yourself. So nowadays, in halacha, there are many people who would say that since everybody wears colors anyway, there's no difference between red and hot pink and hot green, neon green, and or anything that would call there that would absolutely draw the eye and call attention. That's why the Gemara says a woman shouldn't wear red. Also, there's another reason. And the reason is because in the Sefirot, red is the Sefira of Gevura, of justice, of judgment. And we don't want to get anywhere near judgments. We don't want to judge anybody. We don't want to be judged. Of course, Lily, I guess we're asking questions in the group.
Okay. I hope my microphone works. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Thanks, Miriam.
Okay.
Rebbetzin, I'm going to go off topic a little, but there seems to be, and I don't do this, but a lot of people now wear red threads and the blue stone. And that's it's an epidemic now.
The red thread was a very good way to give poor people parnasa. That's how I'll talk about it. You go to the hotel and all these poor people are trying to sell you a red thread. Let me tell you that there's a custom, there's a root to everything Jewish people do has a root in actuality. The real custom of red, this was told to me by an old Yerushalmi woman. I don't even know if she's alive anymore. Years and years ago, about 38 years ago, I had a car here. And I actually was privileged to go early in the morning to Rochel, and I drove. In those days, it was easy to do. And I used to take a bunch, some ladies from Meisharim. Don't ask, it was a whole question. It was a whole story. I met these really amazing Rebbetzins from Meisharim. They're old ladies. And I don't know how it happened that I said, I have a car. They said, really, would you want to drive us someplace? You know, they would never drive but okay. So I drove them to Rochel early in the morning. I forgot, whatever, on a day. And they told me that the original custom of the red string was to go to Rochel, only by Rochel Imenu, and to take red string and to tie it around the monument. And to daven that, you know, it should be like a bringing Rochel Imenu's energy into whoever would wear that red string. That's where it came from. And actually, this woman who I drove, I tell you, actually, this woman that I drove actually brought she bought red wool. She went to because she knew when I was going to drive her. She went to the store and she bought red, the kind of like embroidery that you make needle points from. She brought a whole bunch of that and she tied it together and she put it around one time. Then she said, really supposed to wrap it around 7 times, depending on. And she got some men on the other side to help, because in those days the men's side was a simple mechitza, right? So the men were on one side, women on the other side. And then she took that and she actually gave me, and then she cut it up and she gave everybody who was there. I don't know where it is. That's what she told me. That's what she told me was an old Yerushalmi custom. What they're selling you now with the thing, it gives parnasa to poor people, but does it have any power? Maybe if you look at it, you'll remember like a souvenir from Eretz Yisrael. Like olden days, they used to sell sand. Remember in olden days, they would sell like a little bottle of colored sand. You'd bring it home. Okay, it's a souvenir, but you know, I'm not into any of that stuff. But that's anyway. So then this is like a first-hand account of some Yerushalmi lady, a Rebbe, and she's a big. This lady used to go to the kotel every single day and say the whole Sefer Tehillim for Klal Yisrael. And then, if you wanted a personal reading, she would say Sefer Tehillim for you. Then she would start again, say Sefer Tehillim for you, and she would daven for you. It was her personal. People paid her to do that. A few ladies were like that. Amazing ladies. Okay, so now red. So now red means seeing God in your life, and that's why red catches our attention. Now listen, in the world that we're in, anything in holiness always has a flip side. It has a flip side and the opposite of holiness. So if red is to call our attention to God, Reuven, red, Odin. Now you know the whole picture. You see red, you're supposed to remember the hashgacha in your life, and that God is in your life. If that's, and it's a very holy, elevated, it reminds us of Lei Imenu, Yaakov Avinu, our ancestors, etc. Then of course it's going to be hijacked, or it's going to be, there's going to have to be an equal and opposite. And therefore the red in the world is a stop sign. It's calling your attention. It's, bright red lipstick, bright red fingernails. I'm not so sure that if Mashiach comes and you're wearing bright red lipstick at that moment, you're going to be so comfortable. And if you have like these long claws, fingernails painted bright red, shiny, I'm not quite sure how comfortable you'll be. Okay, maybe in this world it's not so significant. But use the color red to remind you Hashem is in your life. Your oath, to remember, Odem is a stone of Reuven. Reuven means to see what? To see godliness in the world, to see God's hand in your life, and then to make you happy to see that Hashem is in your life, because when you search for Hashem in your life, He enlightens your eyes, and He lets you see more in your life. He lets you see more of the hand of Hashem in your life. That's all red. So therefore, I'm not going to turn my camera, because if I turn it, everything's going to get, I have red in my living room. I put red pillows and red flowers, because I personally am not such a big on wearing it, but I like to see red. Now, you're going to know also that in terms of behavioral stimulation, red, because it's simcha, it makes us happy. So here the Rebbe is saying, red is the color of happiness. And yes, you could, and that's why, by the way, kids all love red lollipops. Why do kids love red lollipops? Is it because it tastes? If you would make a red lollipop and the taste of another taste, like another flavor, but color it red, the kids will all want red lollipops. Why is that? The kids want red lollipops. Because the color red for a child is a stimulating color, because all children are is a piece of happiness. And all children are is about learning. Red is learning, seeing God in your life, seeing the world, seeing everything. So children love red. And too much red in a child, the child will not go to sleep. So do not buy red pajamas for your kids, because red is a stimulating color. And they're going to want to be learning and seeing and moving, and they're not going to go to sleep. Don't put red as a sheet in your children's room if you want that child to sleep. If you have a schlafadika child, if you have a sleepy, lethargic child, then dress them in something red, because it will help their energy to wake up. Let them see something. Now look at the interesting, I say this all the time, the Vilna Gaon taught us that it's important that Hashem sprinkles messages all throughout languages. Hashem is always sprinkling messages in our life. So, and he says, look in languages. For those of you who are linguists, you should know this. If you look at language, you see that in every language, there are words that are connected to Hebrew, because Hebrew is the primary language. But in every language of the world, French, Spanish, Italian, Persian, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Swahili, Amharic. Every language has words and expressions that somehow are coming from Torah and coming from, it's not the whole language, but they're in the language, they're sprinkled in there, words and expressions that are holy and that are from Hebrew or that are conveying a lesson. So when a person sees red, what does it mean to see red? So we just said, seeing red means you see Hashem. But in the secular world, seeing red means being angry. Being angry. And we see that Hashem made our face turn red when we get angry or when we get embarrassed. So if a person is getting angry, and their face is getting red, right? So what does a person do? They have to remember everything's from Hashem. It really helps to remember that. If this person just said that to you, that's because Hashem wanted you to hear that. It's true that that person is indeed, has to be responsible for that behavior. But when you're getting angry, you have to try your best to see the Yad Hashem. See what's God telling me here. Okay. And then he says, the pasuk in Mishlei, he says, when you're searching to see God in your life, Hashem will show you more of himself, so to speak, in your life. If you want to see Hashgacha, if you want to see divine providence, or if you want to just see godliness in your life, Hashem will give you, the more you want, the more he'll let you see. And the pasuk says, that will make your eyes sparkle. And ma'or einayim yisnach lev. A sparkling eye doesn't just mean, it means insightful, it means smart, it means aware. And when the more you're aware and insightful and godly awareness you have, the happier you get. That's Reuven, that's Odin, that's red, that's the ruby. So let me just tell you a story now. I don't want to go to the next color, it will take too long. So let me tell you a story about awareness, because the name, the color red is awareness, godly awareness. So, and just to tie this into like Vomer and Meron and what happened. So I told you before that I have a precious friend who lives down the block, who comes to our classes. Her name is Sue, and she lost her son, Elazar ben Reuven, the Shoshan. He was not yet 14 years old, and he was a little tzaddik bacher. He was her youngest, a tzaddik of a boy. You know, sometimes their family wouldn't even talk about him because he was so special. Anyway, so I asked her the following. I said, it says in Chazal tell us that 30 days before the person's about to leave, the neshama knows, and the brain doesn't know, but the neshama, the soul of the person knows, they sense, and they begin to say things that only looking back on it retroactively, you see that they were really preparing the parents, preparing the family, and actually saying goodbye. So I asked her, did any of that happen to you? And she said, absolutely. She had two instances. One she told me, and one then afterwards somebody told her. One instance was, because that's how you see God in your life. You see how Hashem's planting messages in your life. So she said that this young man was in 8th grade, Kita Chet, and in Israel, after 8th grade in yeshiva, then you go to yeshiva high school, and then after you do that for 4, 5, 6 years, because it's not really like high school with English, it's just learning. And then you go on to yeshiva gedola. So he was graduating from his cheder, his elementary school, and going off to yeshiva ketana next year to high school. And many of the schools, all the schools wanted him. Usually, you have to apply. They all applied to him. They wanted him. He's such a special boy. And so he left it up to his parents to decide in terms of what would be convenient for them in terms of transportation, etc. And do they want him to be in a dormitory or do they not? And the parents, they all decided that they're going to keep him locally in one of the yeshivas very close by. So he won't be dorming, he won't be going away. He'll be in yeshiva, but it'll be local. So that was their decision. But she said a few weeks ago, he said to them, he said, you know, I'm soon going to yeshiva. I'm soon going away to yeshiva. And you're going to miss me. I know you'll miss me, but it's to yeshiva. I'm going to yeshiva. And she said that at the time, she was wondering, like, why did he say that? Because he's not really going away. He's going to be local. So why was he saying he's going away to yeshiva? And only now she realizes he said he was preparing them. He didn't know. He was preparing them because he's going to the yeshiva in Shamayim. So that idea, that concept, thinking about that, it doesn't make her pain. Her pain is enormous. And everybody's in so much pain, and especially, of course, the people who lost family members. But even that thought of seeing how God was so kind as to plant that conversation in their home, and they could look back and say, whoa, Hashem was saying that he's going to the yeshiva Shalmala, the yeshiva in Shamayim. So when a person has awareness that God is directing their life, it makes them happy. Now you will notice that the color red is not an often repeated color in nature. It's not like everything, it's not like the next color we're going to be learning is green. Well, the whole world is covered in green, right? Blue, we learned the whole sky and the oceans. Green, we're going to learn next week, Siyasa D'Shmaya, is all of the vegetation. But how much red is there naturally in the world? Okay, we have flowers here and there, but we don't have, if you look out your window now, how much natural red will you see in the world? Not so much. Because red is something that you have to work on. You have to work on seeing God in your life. Now everybody's going to buy red roses. That's why red roses are so valuable, because the idea of red. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to wish you a good Shabbos. I see it's going to take us longer than 2 weeks. I'm sure you're going to be okay with that, because you see that it's an amazing topic. The truth is, everything in Torah is so vast and so gigantic and so amazing. And that's why it's fabulous that we keep learning to each other, and the more we see that there's to learn, right? There's so much to learn. You could learn all this on your own also, there's a lot. So thank you so much. And thank you again.
I could say, Rochel, that you're going to let us go. The question is whether we're letting you go. So you'll have to say that you have to leave us here to wait for the next one.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Thank you for joining us.
Mevorchim.
A good Shabbos Mevorchim, Be'ezras Hashem.
Yes.
Okay.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.